passed away, the entire world mourned the loss of a monarch who had reigned for over 7 decades. But for Prince Harry, the Queen's death marked the beginning of a different journey, a battle for something far more personal. The Queen's last wish, hidden in the privacy of her will, became the center of an intense dispute within the royal family. Prince Harry, despite the estrangement from his family, stepped forward to make an emotional appeal to his father, King Charles, and Camilla. His request? To honor Queen Elizabeth's final wish, a request he believed was deeply important to the future of the monarchy. As Prince Harry stood before King Charles and Camilla, his emotions ran high, knowing how crucial this moment was. But what was it about the Queen's wish that made it so controversial? The royal family, known for its secrecy and adherence to tradition, was about to face something that could shatter everything they had worked for. Prince Harry's request was not just about personal assets or titles. It was about the heart of the monarchy and whether the traditions that defined the royal family could still adapt to the modern world. To Harry's shock and disbelief, his emotional plea was met with immediate rejection. King Charles and Camilla, in what seemed like a moment of cold defiance, refused to even consider the Queen's last request. Was this just a family squabble, or was there something deeper at play? A rift so profound that not even the Queen's memory could heal it. Prince Harry, standing there in stunned silence, could only wonder what had happened to the family he had once been so close to. Why was the Queen's request not important enough to be honored? Why did King Charles and Camilla refuse? Prince Harry's request to honor Queen Elizabeth's last wish was a pivotal moment for the royal family, a moment that could have potentially brought the family closer together. However, the refusal from King Charles and Camilla to even consider his appeal exposed a deep fracture that had been growing for years. What motivated King Charles and Camilla to reject Harry's plea? What was in the Queen's last request that made it so impossible to fulfill? Many insiders believed that King Charles, now the reigning monarch, felt that the Queen's wish had come at an inconvenient time, just as he was beginning his own reign and establishing his authority. The idea of honoring the Queen's final wishes, if they were too unconventional or controversial, could have threatened his position, making him appear weak in the eyes of the public. Camilla, always under the microscope for her role in the royal family, had her own reasons for opposing the request. Was she concerned about how it might impact her position as queen consort? The rejection was not simply about a family dispute, it was about power. Prince Harry, once a prominent figure in the royal family, was now a distant figure, far removed from the corridors of Buckingham Palace. The refusal to honor the Queen's wish was a statement that Prince Harry was no longer seen as an influential part of the royal family. As he stood there, his father and stepmother seemingly uninterested in his feelings or the Queen's legacy, Harry began to realize that this rejection was the final straw in a long series of disagreements. Why his plea was ignored? Prince Harry had spent the years following his departure from royal duties struggling to reconcile with his family. The tensions between him and King Charles, as well as Camilla, had reached a boiling point over the past few years. But the Queen's death marked a new chapter in this increasingly fractured relationship. When he made the decision to ask his father and stepmother to honor Queen Elizabeth's final wishes, he did so with a deep sense of urgency and an overwhelming emotional burden. The Queen, who had been the pillar of stability in his life, had left behind not just her crown, but an enduring legacy that Prince Harry believed needed to be preserved and adapted for the future. But as he stood before King Charles and Camilla, he could feel the cold indifference that greeted his heartfelt plea. The emotional weight of his request was palpable. For Harry, this was not just about following the traditional royal expectations. It was about ensuring that the monarchy could evolve in a way that reflected the times. The Queen, as much as she was a figurehead of the past, had understood the importance of modernizing the institution. Her wish, as it was laid out in her will, was for the monarchy to embrace change and adapt to the new reality of the British people. For Harry, asking King Charles and Camilla to honor that wish was an attempt to bridge the widening gap between his vision for the monarchy and the rigid traditions that had held it in place for centuries. The tension in the room grew as Harry spoke, his voice strained but filled with conviction, only for his words to fall on deaf ears. What was it that made King Charles and Camilla so resistant? The rejection wasn't just a personal blow, it was a message that Harry, despite his familial ties and his efforts to preserve his grandmother's legacy, had no place in shaping the future of the monarchy. The refusal to consider the Queen's final request exposed deep divisions in the royal family, particularly between Harry and his father, whose relationship had never fully recovered from past rifts. In a way, this moment became symbolic of the generational divide. Harry, the younger, more progressive prince, desperately trying to move the monarchy forward, while King Charles and Camilla clung to the old ways. Their decision not to entertain the Queen's final request spoke volumes about their unwillingness to change or acknowledge Harry's vision for the future. As Prince Harry left the room, his heart heavy with disappointment, it became evident that this rejection wasn't just a personal defeat, it was a rejection of the future. For Harry, it was clear that he was no longer seen as part of the royal family's inner circle. circle. The dynamics within the family had shifted, and the public's view of the monarchy's future was becoming more uncertain by the day. Harry's appeal had been heartfelt, but the refusal he encountered was a clear indication that change, even when prompted by the Queen herself, would not come easily. The monarchy, once so closely knit, was now on the verge of a deeper fracture. How her last wish shaped the future of the royal family. The Queen's last wish, revealed through her will, was more than just a passing desire for assets to be distributed. It was a call for the royal family to evolve in a way that could potentially redefine the monarchy. As one of the longest reigning monarchs in history, Queen Elizabeth had seen the world change dramatically during her reign. She understood better than most that the monarchy had to adapt if it was to survive in the modern age. Her will, however, contained instructions that were not just about inheritance. It was about ensuring that the royal family could maintain its relevance in a world that was no longer bound by centuries-old traditions. Prince Harry's plea to honor the Queen's final wishes was not an isolated request. It was a reflection of his growing concern that the monarchy was failing to evolve. The Queen's desire for modernization was apparent in her will, and Harry saw it as a chance to honor her vision of a progressive, inclusive monarchy, one that could speak to the values of the modern world. The Queen, despite her staunch adherence to tradition, had recognized that the monarchy could no longer remain untouched by the changing tides of public opinion. Prince Harry, deeply moved by this vision, felt an immense responsibility to continue the Queen's work. He was ready to take on the mantle of change, but instead, he faced resistance from those who were more comfortable maintaining the status quo. But what was in the Queen's will that made it so divisive? It's believed that the Queen's request was not just about handing down material wealth, but about setting the tone for the future of the monarchy. She wanted to ensure that the monarchy would stay relevant, that it would be modernized in a way that could maintain the respect of the people, while still honoring the traditions that had defined it. This vision, though progressive, was not something that King Charles and Camilla seemed willing to embrace. They had their own vision for the monarchy, one that clung more firmly to tradition and what they believed the royal family represented. The decision to reject the Queen's final wish was not just about a refusal to adapt, it was about fear. Fear that honoring her request could open the floodgates to further changes that might not align with their own values. For King Charles and Camilla, this was not just about a family dispute. It was about preserving the monarchy as they knew it, even if it meant disregarding the Queen's progressive wishes. But as Prince Harry had pointed out, the future of the monarchy was at stake, and failing to evolve could risk its relevance. Can Prince Harry ever be part of the royal family again? Prince Harry's emotional appeal had been rejected, and the fallout from that moment would be felt for years to come. The fracture within the royal family, once so tightly knit, was now more pronounced than ever. Harry, who had already been distanced from the monarchy due to his decision to step back from royal duties, found himself further alienated by the rejection of his plea to honor Queen Elizabeth's final wishes. The question that now loomed large was whether Prince Harry could ever truly be a part of the royal family again. The decision to exclude Harry from such an important moment, the reading of the Queen's will, was a powerful statement. It was a rejection not just of his plea, but of his role within the family. Harry's vision for a more progressive monarchy had been met with cold indifference, and the ties that once bound him to his family seemed to unravel with every passing day. Prince Harry had wanted to preserve his grandmother's legacy, but in doing so, he had placed himself at odds with the very family he had once been so close to. For Harry, the pain of being excluded from this critical family decision was profound. The Queen had always been a stabilizing figure for him, and her death had left him with a sense of duty to continue her work. But in the face of rejection, Harry began to realize that his role in the royal family was no longer certain. The monarchy, as it stood, no longer had room for his vision of change. Harry's departure from royal duties had already strained his relationship with King Charles and Camilla, but now it seemed as though there was no going back. The family he had once called his own had turned its back on him, leaving Harry to wonder if he would ever truly belong again. The role of Prince William. As the royal family's tensions escalated, one figure remained eerily silent throughout the entire debacle: Prince William. As the future king and the man who was supposed to carry forward the legacy of Queen Elizabeth, William's silence spoke volumes. Was he supporting his brother's plea, or was he quietly siding with his father and Camilla in rejecting the Queen's final wish? The question lingered in the air, fueling the rift between Harry and the rest of the family. Prince William's position within the royal family had always been clear. He was the future king, and it was his responsibility to ensure the monarchy's survival. But in this moment, where the monarchy's future was being questioned, his silence raised suspicions. To Harry, his brother's refusal to speak up felt like a betrayal. As the younger, more progressive member of the family, Harry had hoped for William's support, especially when it came to the Queen's desire for a more modern, inclusive monarchy. Instead, William's silence was a constant reminder of how deeply divided the family had become. Some royal insiders speculated that Prince William's silence was a deliberate decision. He was no longer just a brother to Harry, he was a future monarch with an image to protect. Supporting Harry's plea could have been seen as a direct challenge to King Charles and Camilla's authority, and William was not about to risk his own position for the sake of a family squabble. But for Harry, this silence was nothing short of a betrayal. The man who had once been his closest confidant was now distant, caught between his royal duty and his loyalty to his brother. The emotional toll on Prince Harry was clear. He had always relied on William as a stabilizing force, even when their paths had diverged. But now, with the monarchy's future at stake, Harry found himself fighting this battle alone. The absence of his brother's support was a painful reminder of how far apart they had grown. While William's silence may have been an act of pragmatism, to Harry, it felt like an abandonment. The rift between the brothers had now become irreparable, with neither willing to give ground. The future of the monarchy seemed uncertain, and the question remained, could Harry ever repair the relationship with his brother, or had that bond been broken beyond repair? Camilla's unseen hand. When Camilla became queen consort, many believed that she would remain a secondary figure in the royal family, content with her newfound position by King Charles's side. But in the aftermath of the queen's death, Camilla's influence seemed to reach far beyond what anyone had expected. Her rejection of Queen Elizabeth's final wishes, alongside King Charles, hinted at a much more significant role in shaping the future of the monarchy, one that was not just about ceremonial duties, but about power, control, and influence. Insiders close to the royal family began to speculate that Camilla had quietly become one of the most powerful figures within the household. Some believed that she was actively steering King Charles's decisions, particularly when it came to matters regarding the monarchy's future. The refusal to honor the Queen's last request was not just about the wishes of King Charles, but also about Camilla's unwillingness to allow the monarchy to change in ways that could threaten her own position. Was she afraid that honoring the Queen's wishes would undermine her own authority as queen consort? The public's perception of Camilla had always been a complicated one. She had been the subject of controversy for many years, particularly in relation to her marriage to Charles and the way she became involved with him during his marriage to Princess Diana. But in the wake of the Queen's death, Camilla's role in the royal family seemed to have solidified, and with it, her control over royal matters. Her decision to reject Prince Harry's appeal raised eyebrows, as it seemed to signal a shift toward a more rigid and traditional monarchy, one that would not be swayed by the younger generation's calls for change. Tradition versus modernity. King Charles, who had waited his entire life to become monarch, found himself in the midst of a personal and professional dilemma. The future of the monarchy rested on his shoulders, and he had to navigate a delicate balance between honoring tradition and adapting to the changing world around him. The Queen's final request had been clear. She wanted the monarchy to evolve, but honoring that request meant breaking with tradition, a move that King Charles seemed unwilling to make. In the years leading up to his ascension to the throne, King Charles had been vocal about his belief that the monarchy needed to modernize. He had spoken about the importance of change, about ensuring the monarchy remained relevant in a world that was rapidly moving away from old-fashioned traditions. But now that he had the power to make those changes, he found himself torn. The rejection of Prince Harry's plea was not just about family dynamics, it was about a larger ideological battle. Could King Charles afford to change the monarchy, or would it destroy the very institution he had spent so many years preparing to lead? For King Charles, the decision to reject the Queen's final wishes was not easy. He knew the risks involved. If the monarchy did not evolve, it could become irrelevant. But at the same time, he could not shake the weight of tradition that had been passed down through generations. His father, Prince Philip, had always been a firm believer in the importance of maintaining the monarchy's centuries-old traditions, and King Charles had been raised with those same values. Was he willing to sacrifice that legacy in the name of progress, or would he continue to uphold the ideals that had kept the monarchy intact for so long? As the royal family's internal rift deepened, the public began to take notice. The rejection of Prince Harry's plea to honor the Queen's final wish was not just a family matter, it was a global spectacle. The monarchy, once viewed as a stable and unshakable institution, was now under intense scrutiny. The world watched as the family's private disputes spilled into the public eye, and the question on everyone's mind was simple: how would the public react? For years, the British royal family had been admired for its sense of duty, grace, and unity. But now, the family's internal tensions seemed to be at the forefront of the conversation. Prince Harry, once beloved by the public, was now a polarizing figure. His call for a more modernized monarchy resonated with some, while others saw it as an affront to the traditions that had made the royal family a symbol of British strength. King Charles and Camilla, on the other hand, had garnered sympathy from those who believed they were simply trying to preserve the monarchy's integrity. With the royal family in disarray and Prince Harry Harry's plea for change rejected, the future seemed uncertain. The fractures within the family had deepened to the point where reconciliation appeared impossible. The question now was whether Prince Harry, despite his frustrations and alienation, could ever find a way back into the fold. Could he ever reconcile with his father, King Charles, and stepmother, Camilla, or was this the final break in their already strained relationship? Prince Harry had spent years distancing himself from the royal family, first by stepping back from royal duties, and then by speaking out against the institution. But this was different. His grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, had left behind a legacy, and Harry had hoped to honor it in a way that would secure the monarchy's future. Instead, he found himself more isolated than ever. The refusal to honor her wishes seemed to make any reconciliation impossible. His relationship with King Charles, already strained by years of tension, had reached a breaking point. Camilla's refusal to support his plea only added fuel to the fire, further cementing the divide. The royal family under siege. As the royal family's internal struggles intensified, public opinion of the monarchy began to shift. The refusal to honor Queen Elizabeth's final wishes not only divided the family, but also began to erode the public's trust in the institution itself. For generations, the royal family had been seen as a symbol of strength, unity, and stability. However, as secrets and tensions spilled into the public eye, many began to question whether the monarchy could continue to hold on to its place in British society. The media, eager to report every detail of the royal rift, fueled the growing narrative that the monarchy was no longer a united force. Prince Harry's appeal to his father and stepmother, King Charles and Camilla, had become a symbol of a deeper divide within the royal family. The public's reaction to the rejection was swift and unforgiving. Social media platforms were ablaze with discussions about the royal family's refusal to adapt, with many questioning if King Charles and Camilla were fit to lead the monarchy into a new era. For those who had hoped the monarchy would evolve to reflect the changing times, the rejection of Harry's plea was a blow to those aspirations. The question that lingered was whether the royal family could recover from the damage done. In an age where public opinion was more powerful than ever, could the monarchy survive the fallout from this internal conflict? The answer seemed unclear. With the media scrutinizing every move, the royal family found itself under a microscope like never before. The monarchy had once been an unshakable institution, but now, its foundations seemed increasingly fragile. Prince Harry's role in this narrative had shifted dramatically. No longer just the rebellious younger prince, he had become the focal point of a movement for change within the royal family. His insistence on modernizing the monarchy had found resonance with many people who believed the institution needed to evolve. Yet, as he found himself more alienated from his family, he began to realize that change within the monarchy would not come easily, or at all. The clash between tradition and modernity had become a defining issue for the royal family, and with each passing day, the divide between Harry and his family seemed impossible to bridge. A kingdom in crisis. The royal family had long been a symbol of continuity, tradition, and stability. But with each passing day, the rift between Prince Harry and King Charles, and the refusal to honor Queen Elizabeth's final wishes, brought the monarchy closer to a breaking point. The Queen's death had been the catalyst for change, but rather than ushering in a new era of unity and evolution, it had sparked a crisis that threatened the very foundation of the institution. Prince Harry, once beloved by the public for his charm and charisma, now found himself at the center of a larger debate about the future of the monarchy. His plea to honor the Queen's wishes had been rejected, and with it, the possibility of meaningful change seemed to slip away. What had been intended as a call for modernization now appeared to be a personal battle, one that saw Harry fighting against his own family to ensure that the monarchy could survive the challenges of the future. His request, while noble, had fallen on deaf ears. The monarchy, it seemed, was unwilling to change. As King Charles navigated his new role as monarch, the weight of tradition pressed heavily on his shoulders. The public's reaction to the family's refusal to evolve left him in a difficult position. Would he continue to uphold the monarchy as it had always been, or would he listen to his son's calls for modernization? With Camilla at his side, their decision to reject the Queen's wishes seemed to signal that the future of the royal family would be defined by tradition, not progress. But could the monarchy survive in the modern world without evolving? For Prince Harry, the consequences of this rejection were clear. His place in the royal family had been severed, and his future with them seemed uncertain. No longer the beloved prince, Harry had become a figurehead for change, but at what cost? As the monarchy stood at the crossroads of tradition and modernity, the question of whether it could survive this internal crisis was still unanswered. Could King Charles and Camilla repair the damage done, or had the royal family entered a new chapter, one that would see it divided, weakened, and forever changed? As the royal family faces its deepest crisis yet, the question remains, will Prince Harry ever reconcile with his family, or is this the end of the monarchy as we know it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think King Charles and Camilla can repair the rift, or is the monarchy doomed to fracture? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on this unfolding royal drama.